Welcome to the Lesbian Romantic podcast. This is Worth the Risk, Part 4. Gerald the Devil. Nathalie swallowed the last of her croissant and sighed happily. I needed that, she said. She reached for the paper cup of coffee. I need more of this, Raven replied, pulling out another pastry from the bag. What is this one? Nathalie grinned. We call it a chocoladekoek. It's like a croissant with chocolate inside. Raven's eyes widened as she took a big bite. Oh my God, she mumbled while chewing. This one's amazing too. Nathalie chuckled as she wiped the crumbles off of her tights. She glanced to her side to study Raven's face again. Having breakfast had finally forced Raven to take off her mask. Nathalie had been feeling a little lightheaded ever since. There was something about Raven that made Nathalie want to stare at her. Maybe it was the way her entire face lit up whenever she smiled. It could also be the pleasure and bliss that radiated off of Raven whenever she took a bite. Yes, Raven Robinson was having quite the effect on Nathalie. There was no point in denying it. Nathalie actually welcomed the giddy feeling. It had been a while since she had felt the excitement of an innocent crush. There was nothing wrong with enjoying the company of a beautiful woman. It didn't matter that she was an investor who was here to discuss business with Nathalie's boss. It's not like anything would ever happen between them. The only thing Nathalie did regret right now was that she couldn't get closer to Raven. She would have loved to study every little detail of Raven's nose, cheeks, and lips. But COVID-19 was still here to ruin those moments. They were sitting 6 feet apart on a low wall next to the river in the middle of the historic center. The sun was finally breaking through the clouds and it was less cold now. The promise of a beautiful summer day hung in the air. The clock of the church nearby had just rung 7 times. In the distance, garbage trucks swept through the streets. The tourists would follow soon, but there wouldn't be as many as there used to be. Have you heard from Bart? Raven asked, wiping her hands on a paper napkin. I wanted to ask earlier, but I guess I got distracted. She grinned. Nathalie shook her head. No. She scratched behind her ear. I guess you were distracted too, Raven said in a teasing tone. Nathalie's eyes flicked up to Raven's. Their gazes held for a long moment. For a second, Nathalie wondered if Raven was aware of the effect she was having on her. Or maybe Raven just had a playful personality? You know what? I'll call back now, Nathalie said, clearing her throat. Do you think he's okay? Raven asked, frowning. Oh, yeah. Nathalie nodded and took her phone out of her hoodie pocket. I'm sure he's fine. He does this sometimes, you know. Raven folded her legs. Does what? Nathalie realized her mistake and quickly shut her mouth before sharing any more of Bart's personal shortcomings with this potential investor. She pushed the phone against her ear and pointed at it apologetically.
This is Bert van der Velde.
But Bart's phone went straight to voicemail. Nathalie lowered the phone, frowning at the screen. Voicemail? Raven asked. Yes, Nathalie said, tapping Bart's number again. Her call went straight to voicemail for the second time. Raven picked up her coffee. When did you last hear from him? Yesterday, Nathalie responded, lowering her phone. When he called to ask me to pick you up. Did he mention why he couldn't make it to the airport? Nathalie frowned again. No. She was embarrassed that she hadn't asked him. She felt like she owed Raven some answers, even though it was Bart who had promised to pick her up. I'll keep trying, she said, wanting to reassure Raven. It's very early, after all. Raven didn't look convinced. Sure. Hey, we can do some sightseeing in the meantime, Nathalie suggested, eager to distract Raven. Okay, yes, I'd like that, Raven said, a slow smile spreading across her face. Don't you want to get changed first, though? She asked and pointed at Nathalie's workout clothes. Nathalie looked down at her tights. I guess that would be a good idea, yeah. I can keep myself busy while you run home, Raven said, tucking some braids behind her ear. Nathalie quickly calculated how much time it would take her to go home, take a shower, and get back here. It would take at least 2 hours. That seemed like way too long. But maybe there was a much better option. You could join me? Nathalie offered slowly. My walk home takes us through the city. You know, see the city like the locals do? Raven visibly perked up. Are you sure? Because I don't want to. Of course, Nathalie interrupted her. Why waste precious time? We've got a whole city to explore after all. And I've got more coffee at home, she added, pointing at Raven's empty cup. Raven bit on her lower lip, eyes twinkling. Sounds perfect to me. Butterflies stirred in the pit of Nathalie's stomach. She jumped up, unable to contain her excitement. Great. Let's go then. Oh wow, what building is this? Raven said as she looked up. That's our St. Bav's Cathedral, Nathalie said with pride. It got renovated not too long ago. That's why it looks so bright and shiny. Raven held her hand above her eyes, squinting at the church. How high is it? I'm going to have to Google that, Nathalie chuckled. I thought you were born and raised here, Raven chortled. I never said I paid attention in history class, Nathalie retorted, placing both of her hands on her hips. All right, Raven replied, nodding. Can we go inside? Sure, Nathalie said. I think it opens around 9, so we'll have to come back later. There's actually a world-famous painting in there. She wanted to share the name of the painting, but couldn't remember what it was called in English. Cool, Raven said. I'd like to see that. It's a date then, Nathalie joked and then wondered if she was pushing it a little. Raven's eyes narrowed above her mask. Nathalie couldn't tell if she was smiling or getting annoyed. Okay, Raven finally said, her voice considerably lower. Let's go to church together. Nathalie burst out laughing. It is Sunday after all. True, Raven nodded. My mom and sis will be happy to hear I paid my respects to the Lord. Really? Nathalie asked as she started walking again. They're religious? Yes, Raven replied, following closely. My family goes to church every Sunday. I'm a little less invested than they are. Nathalie wasn't sure what to say to that. She hadn't seen the inside of a church for over a year. No one in her family was religious. The only reason she ever went to church was when there was a funeral. Do you want another picture for your mom and sister? Nathalie asked clumsily, pointing at the cathedral. Maybe later, Raven said, getting closer as they walked past a trash can. Let's enjoy our walk first. Nathalie's lips curved up under her mask. You know, we'll soon be at the castle of Gerald the Devil. How's that for your Sunday adventure? What? Raven laughed. For real? Kid you not, Nathalie said and pointed at the gray building in the distance. It's right over there by the water. Who is this Gerald? Raven asked, squinting at the corner of the street. Was he some kind of evil guy? That castle does look a little creepy. No, Nathalie replied hesitantly. Apparently he was this 13th century knight with a very dark complexion, and that's why... That's why they called him the devil? Raven asked incredulously. Nathalie grimaced. Yeah, I guess everyone who looked a little different back then was regarded as evil. Raven snorted. Not that much has changed since then. Wincing, Nathalie nodded. So you did pick up something in history class, huh? Raven said while she stopped to take in the castle with its Gothic windows and dark stones. Nathalie tucked her hands in the pocket of her hoodie. To be honest, I didn't. I went on a boat ride last year and the guide told me about it. Apparently, this castle was an insane asylum for a while, too. Raven tilted her head. I don't think I want to visit this place. You shouldn't, Nathalie said. Our other castle is way more interesting. There's another one? Yeah, it's right by your hotel. You didn't see it? Nathalie asked, looking left and right before she crossed the street. No, Raven said, falling into step next to her. Is that one haunted as well? Giggling, Nathalie said, It does have this impressive torture room you can visit. What the hell is wrong with you people here? Raven laughed. People say European cities are a lot like Disney World, but I have to strongly disagree. Good, Nathalie said, still giggling. Because I hate it when people say that. Oh? Raven asked. Why is that? Nathalie pointed at the rows of tall houses on both sides of the street. This is our city. We live our lives here. Too many visitors forget that. An American tourist once asked one of my friends when the park closed. No way! Like, they thought it was an actual theme park? Yes way, Nathalie responded. She almost bumped her shoulder into Raven's to make her point. She stepped to the side instead, increasing the distance between the two of them. They were getting too close to each other. I'll try not to be one of those tourists, Raven chuckled. You're not, Nathalie said, smiling. She looked over at Raven. You've already established successful contact with the locals, she added playfully. Raven patted herself on the shoulder. Yes, I have. And I am on my way to see more of the local life. I can't wait to see where you live. Nathalie's heart skipped a beat. She was taking Raven to her house. Soon, Raven would be sitting in her small living room. They barely knew each other. It seemed so unreal. And yet, Nathalie loved every second of this morning. It's a small house, she said, wanting to manage Raven's expectations. Sounds cozy. Does it have a garden? If you can call it that, Nathalie said, tilting her head. There's just enough room for 2 chairs and a table. Raven gestured at the sun and the sky. That's all we need, right? Yes, Nathalie replied, taking in a deep breath of fresh morning air. They kept walking through the city together, chatting easily. Nathalie thought of her boss, Bart, once or twice. She knew she should give him another call soon. She didn't bring it up again to Raven, though. Nathalie didn't want to ruin all this fun. This was part 4 of Worth the Risk and the very first episode of The Lesbian Romantic in 2021. Happy New Year. I wish you everything you can dream of, and I hope that, 2021 is going to be a lot better for all of us. Because, 2020 has been a long year. All right. I also want to thank everyone who supported me in 2020. This is a crowd-funded show, and that means I count on your support to help me keep going. So thank you. I was able to create many episodes in 2020 because of your help. If you too would like to support The Lesbian Romantic, you can now do so in a whole new way. At the very last moment in 2020, the year we want to forget about, I started a Patreon page. Now, if you don't know what Patreon is, it's basically a website where people can support their favorite creators with a monthly pledge and get perks, cool stuff, or extra access and stuff in return. So, if perks sound like music in your ears, go to patreon.com/lesbianromantic and see what I have to offer. And if you enjoy my work, if I make you smile, which is my mission, then please consider supporting the show today so I can keep creating these episodes throughout 2021. Thank you so much. All right. That's all for this very first episode of the new year. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for spending time with me. And I will see you again soon. Bye.